Hey, what's going on, YouTube? This is your certified life and relationship coach, Coach Court, and in today's video, I'm going to give you the 4 attachment styles. Thank you for sticking around. If this is your first time viewing me, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel by clicking that subscribe button and ringing that little bell so you're notified for the newest content. For those of you who are tuning in and found my work because you want to figure out what your attachment style is, figure out what your ex or what your current girlfriend attachment style is, you've come to the right place. And I'm going to try to break it down to you as quickly and as simply as I can. Back in 1969, John Bowlby, a psychotherapist, wrote a book about attachment styles and how early attachment to your parents or your primary caregivers affects how you function in a romantic relationship. What he was able to discover is there is some very fundamental things that you carry into your relationships with your spouses that you had early on in your life in between ages 0 to 5. He broke it down to 4 different styles, and this is just a theory. You have the secure attacher, you have the anxious preoccupied, the dismissive avoidant, and the fearful avoidant. Now, over the years, people have put their own little subdivision in there, but it was originally only 3, which is secure, avoidant, and anxious. The anxious preoccupied style, which is the style that I possess, I like to call myself an anxious preoccupied in recovery, is because I often have to check myself when I'm feeling my anxious preoccupied side start to slip and I lose control of my thoughts. That's usually what it's all about. Me being able to stop, freeze, be in the moment, be present, and understand that I have no control over what other people do, and I have no control over certain situations. The only control that I have is self-control. The anxious preoccupied type is a unhealthy attachment style. It is a style that is constantly on the lookout for somebody abandoning them, because back in developmental ages, and this is something that I've learned from coaching my own clients, living my own life, and being in relationships. Your style can change over the years. It's just like your taste buds. Your taste buds die off every 7 years. So things that you like now, you wouldn't like 7 years from now, and vice versa. The things that you've eaten as a kid, you wouldn't even touch now. So there is something to that. And I like to also attach that to the 7-year itch, because people that are in relationships, they tend to start to get a little antsy, a little bit hyper vigilant about finding somebody else and finding the flaws in the relationship. They just get restless is what they do. Back to the anxious preoccupied type though. They struggle with keeping long-term healthy relationships because they're always on the lookout of somebody leaving them and abandoning them. So they'll do things to sabotage the relationship. And not only that, they constantly feel as if they're unworthy of love and affection. They look for the signs of somebody cheating on them or that somebody truly doesn't love them. So they constantly need reassurance. They constantly need validation from people. It makes it hard for them to actually focus on being present and thoroughly enjoying that person. They can attach to them so easily, so rapidly, because they don't want that person to see the flaws that they feel they possess, even when the flaws aren't even something that's realistic. So they attach to them as hard as they can right away, and they get clingy and they get needy, and they just really fear abandonment. They had a caregiver that did not continue to be consistent with their love and affection. They were all in 1 minute, and the next minute, they were trying to fight for their caregiver's attention and their love. The next one is the secure attacher. This is the most preferred attachment style because they understand what a healthy view of love is. If a person wants to be with them, they'll gladly be with them, and they'll be healthy. They'll communicate with them. They won't get too needy, too clingy. And they understand that that person has their own life to live. They have their own struggles and their own demons, and they also have their own interests. So they won't try to engulf the person like the anxious preoccupied type will. They will let them come and go as they please. That's the ideal attachment style, but that was also formed by Most likely, now I'm not saying this is absolute law, most likely it was formed by two parents in a household that was good at communicating, good at letting their kid express their feelings and their emotion, and they were most likely always there for them. The secure attacher are the ones that you really want to be like, you want to strive to get towards. It's a balanced approach at relationships. The next type, the dismissive avoidant. Now, this is the attachment style that people tend to see as narcissists, as selfish, as people who are cold and unloving. Emotionally unavailable is the term that people like to give to those type people. And the way that their style was formed was early on in their childhood. They didn't have parents or caregivers that were consistent, just like the anxious preoccupied, but usually they just let the kid alone to fend for themselves. So if they were having some type of issue emotionally, they could not rely on their parents for that that need to be met, because it's all about needs. That's what attachment style is all about, how your needs are met. And the anxious and the dismissive are very polar with getting their needs met. The avoidant, the dismissive avoidant, they won't rely on anybody for their needs to be met. They find it very tough to do that. And if they do, most likely they'll pull back because they don't want to get too comfortable relying on somebody, because early on in childhood, they couldn't rely on their caregivers. So they pretty much take care of themselves. They're independent. They kind of hoard their resources. So if they were to buy you something or give you money, consider yourself in their good graces and very lucky, because they don't like to do that stuff. They like to protect their resources because they're self-sufficient and they're independent. So they won't rely on their partners to fulfill their needs sexually, mentally, or physically. They're the ones that usually end up doing things on their own, like those women that are independent moms and independent women, the guys who are workaholics and don't really put a whole lot of value on holidays, uh, anniversaries. They just don't see that as something that's important to them. So that type is a type that comes off as cold and emotionless. But that's just the way that they love. There's not anything wrong with that. But they can become just like the anxious preoccupied type. They can become more secure style. All it takes is practice, mindfulness, and constantly taking inventory on where you stand in your relationship. And I'm gonna be honest, the dismissive avoidant find it very difficult to talk about deep relationship issues and emotional issues all the time, because anytime that they let somebody close to them in their mind from history, they base a lot of their stuff off of their history. Anytime somebody gets close to them enough that they can hurt them, they push them away. They distance themselves. So when you want to talk about emotional issues and deep heartfelt things, it's tough for them because it hurts, because they associate that with pain. Then you have the fearful avoidant type. Now this style is the style that has both of the negative qualities from the anxious preoccupied and the dismissive avoidant. They want you there and present and all of your love in 1 minute, and then the next minute they're pushing you away and they need their independence. They feel like you are trying to smother them and engulf them. They're the ones that are like this in their relationships, and they may jump from relationship to relationship because they want that closeness, but they fear it at the same exact time. They pull people in and then they push them away. You can be with them for a 3-day weekend and in pure joy and bliss, and then the next minute you won't hear from them for 3 weeks. It's because when you get that close to them and they're vulnerable to you, they feel really stupid for doing that, and they push you away because they most likely had some kind of event or interaction with you trigger them to make them want to distance themselves and not make themselves feel vulnerable. I was coaching a client once, and she was talking about she was engaged to a guy, and 2 days before the wedding, they were talking about moving in together, trying to get the living arrangement settled, and then the guy just broke up with her. with her and completely fell off the face of the earth. So if you found this video of any value, please like, comment, and share. If you want my help personally, reach out to me on my website, www.fruitfulseeds.com. Send me an email 2 to 3 paragraphs long, no longer than 500 words, as it makes it really hard to reply to so many emails that are lengthy. So as always, thank you guys, and I will talk to you soon.